The Cannabis Show is for information only. You should always consult with a qualified and licensed physician or other medical care provider.
Today on The Cannabis Show, Evan tells us about the cost of growing at home on another growing tips. Kate talks about Tilray's latest study, and Basil is talking about mystery holes in cannabis bud. Keep watching.
More and more frequently, I'm coming across LP flowers that exhibit a particular trait that I've either never come across prior to LP cannabis, which would be odd considering I happen to come across quite a bit of cannabis, or I've simply never noticed before now. The trait I'm referring to is holy cannabis, buds that appear to have many tiny holes burrowed into them. I first noticed this on a cheese variety, which I think is fitting, and ever since then I've been seeing it from many LPs and across plenty of varieties. Well, I've come up with a bit of a theory. I'd love to hear what you think about it. During the formation of the bud or flower on the female cannabis plant, small green tear-shaped leaves called bracts begin to appear among the slightly larger sugar leaves. The bract eventually curls and houses the female reproductive parts, including the calyx. In a best case scenario, no seed grows inside of the bract. It becomes heavily coated in resinous trichomes and we bust it up and consume its goodness. When the bract does form synsemia, or without seed, a tiny hollow cavern appears and tends to give the flower that bumpy texture that you may be familiar with. Well, in the old days, when my cannabis was grown in someone's basement, it would have been hand trimmed. No self-respecting cannabis trimmer would ever intentionally remove even a portion of flower so thickly covered in cannabinoids. These days, with so many LPs sending product through mechanical trimmers, I think we may be losing more of that bud than we'd like. My theory is this. The blades of the mechanical trimmers are nipping off the tips of the bracts, showing the empty insides, hence the Swiss cheese effect. If you've got your own theory, or if you think mine is a little half-baked, let us know in the comments section below.
Welcome back to Growing Tips. I'm often asked, how much does it cost to grow cannabis at home? This really depends on the size of your garden and the equipment you buy. As an example, let's say you want to grow 4 plants in a 4-foot by 4-foot grow tent under a 600-watt light. To get started, I've put together a shopping list. You'll need a tent, light, fans, carbon filter, pots and trays, growing medium, nutrients, a pH meter, water reservoir, air pump, and any other accessories like trellis, stakes, and pest traps for a total equipment cost of around $1,000 to $2,000. Electricity will be our other major cost. There's a number of apps and websites available to help calculate the cost to run your lights and equipment per month, but this is what the equation looks like. Math, scary, I know, right? But stay with me here. If we pay 11 cents per kilowatt and our lights use 750 watts, 18 hours a day, this will add $45 to our monthly bill. It will take at least 4 months before we can harvest our plants, so we'll multiply this by our electricity costs to get $180 and add it to the cost of our equipment for a grand total of $1,180 to $2,180. Using LEDs will reduce the cost of electricity, but cost more upfront significantly for the lights. Now, how much cannabis will our 4 plants produce? Yield is less dependent on the amount of plants and more dependent on the amount of light we give our plants. Experienced growers aim for a gram per watt, but it might be more realistic for newer growers to expect anywhere from a half gram to a gram per watt. So under our 600-watt light, you can expect to harvest anywhere from 300 to 600 grams of dried bud. This doesn't account for our time and labor and is assuming we avoid any unexpected setbacks like male plants or pests. Growing your own cannabis can be extremely rewarding, but takes dedication and patience. If you have any questions or just want to say hi, hit me up in the comments below. Thanks for watching and keep growing.
Each day in Canada, an average of 42 people learn that they have epilepsy, with more than 15,000 people diagnosed annually. 44% are diagnosed before the age of 5.
75 to 85% before the age of 18. A study funded by Nanaimo licensed producer Tilray and conducted at Toronto's Hospital for Sick Children recently released these findings with Tilray's 2 to 100 medical cannabis oil. The 2 to 100 ratio is THC to CBD, and it has shown promising results for children with drug-resistant epilepsy due to Dravet syndrome. The results? In the participants who reached the target treatment dose, there was a statistically significant reduction in motor seizures and an increase in seizure-free days compared to those who did not reach the target dose. There was also improvements in adaptive functioning and quality of life measures. Tilray's 2 to 100 is the highest concentration of cannabis-extracted CBD in the medical cannabis product available from licensed producers. It's currently available to pediatric patients through the ACMPR. As supply increases, the product will be made available to other patients in need. Tilray is offering compassionate pricing programs based on financial need.
Hey, it's a Cannabis Show. We got Basil, Kate, Hart, and myself. I'm Chris. And you know, Kate, with that story on Tilray, I mean, that's incredible. I'm so glad that these studies are taking place.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, they partner with the sick kids in Toronto. And eventually there'll be bigger numbers of people being studied and different kind of ratios between CBD and THC. But for now, I think they feel more comfortable just having that little bit of THC in there. So it's a
It just seems
great
more
ratio,
pure, right?
but-
Yeah.
Sorry?
It's more pure, right, with the THC in there.
Well, I mean,
It's
you've got to
naturally
talk
there.
entourage effect. I mean,
Yeah.
you kind of need the little bit of
Yeah.
THC, right?
Yeah.
You can't just isolate CBD.
absolutely synergistic effect. Yeah, for sure.
Seems pretty small. Growing tips, and thanks for Evan financially.
Definitely thanks, Evan, for that.
Yes.
Because I think that's going to help a lot of people out. A lot of people think that it's just super easy to jump in and pop a seed in the ground. So I think a reality check like this goes a long way for a lot of people. Maybe help a lot of people not, waste a lot of money on a venture that they're not going to follow through with.
True enough.
Yeah, and I
Unfortunately.
mean, and I'm curious to know when legalization happens, we're going to see a lot more used equipment for sale. So that
Right.
might be another way to help
Facebook,
Yeah.
Facebook have that thing
Seriously.
too now, and also, I do believe Evan was doing it like with the requirements of 4 plants, the cost of that. So
Right.
we got to keep that in
Right.
mind as
Give you
well.
a good example for what a regular rec type grow will look like.
And how much of your time it will take up.
Another reality
Quite a
check.
bit.
plants,
It's like,
maybe not.
your job.
yeah, Hart always said, just because they used to call it a weed doesn't mean it grows like one. It's a commitment.
Oh, yeah.
And then a story I never even thought of before, and of course Basil brought it up. I mean, I got the shivers, like the movie Tremors, with the worms coming out and stuff like those holes. The holy cannabis is what you call
So
it.
you've seen it, right?
Well, your picture.
So I've seen it at a few different LPs and across different varieties of cannabis. There are often different types of holes, but I've definitely seen, smaller holes that look like those little caverns. But I've also seen holes that look a little bit longer and deeper. Hart and I
Yeah.
have seen these together. So there's different types of weird little holes in our cannabis, and I'm pretty sure I haven't seen it back in the day.
Are they THC
They're
worms like you were
THC
saying
worms.
off camera?
Yeah.
And when you eat them, it's like tequila, so you get more THC.
Okay, fake cannabis news.
So that is not true.
So if you've seen them,
Yeah,
tell us your story. Tell us what you think. they
Yeah,
are.
send a picture
Yeah.
too, by all means.
Totally.
Yeah, that's great. But thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.